Welcome back to the Balance Sheet, where we talk about all things in the world of women's wrestling. And this week, we are coming to you on the 4th of July weekend. And we're going to start right at the top. My co host, Billy.
What's up, everybody?
And what we're going to do is when we started this podcast, we wanted to make sure we discuss the positive and what we think is the greatness of women's wrestling. There's so many talented women's wrestlers in the world. They're doing a lot of wonderful things from WWE to NXT to AEW to TNA to Stardom to the independents. But we're going to have to be a little bit honest this week. And what should be kind of the highlight of our year in terms of doing this podcast, which is WWE Evolution, a all women's premium live event with one of the most talented women's rosters of all time, if not the most talented. I think we're gonna start with you, sir. I don't think the pay-per-view, the card, the build has been anything to write home about. What are your thoughts?
No, I mean, there's really no way to spin this positively. It has nothing to do with the talent. I mean, you're going to look at the card and you're going to be like, these are all, like you said, this is one of the best rosters in history. And you would buy a ticket to see any number of them wrestle. But unfortunately, um, lazy is about as nice of a term as you could put to the build on this event. Um, both women's title matches were just the champion just pick someone. Which actually, you know what? That wouldn't be so bad if Io Sky had one real opponent feud since WrestleMania. If Tiffany hadn't been cycling the same two or three women since January, not since WrestleMania, since January. Charlotte Flair actually was a chapter in itself, but she just came right back to the women she was wrestling before. Um, so to have both of them on the card, just basically picking their opponent, um, short-term builds for the tag stuff. Presumably Julia is going to be on there. They're just going to have her probably pick an opponent. Maybe someone's going to attack her with like a one-day build. Becky, Lyra, Bailey is at a real story, so that's cool. But what's funny about that is that match isn't even announced yet to sell tickets. It's not even official. We just assume because they've put effort into it. Naomi Jade has some history, but they didn't pull that together to sell tickets until just a couple days, just till yesterday on SmackDown. One of the hottest women that they have in in WWE, Stephanie Vaquer has been. She's not even on the posters, so one of the most popular women they have, and maybe nursing an injury, but she's not even been on the posters. And women who haven't wrestled prominently in months are on the poster, so that's been an odd one. And I got more thoughts, but just we'll get some of your initial thoughts. I I hate the Tiffany Stratton Trish Stratus match. I uh I watched Trish Stratus have her last big match live, air quotes, if you're listening on Spotify. Summer of 2019 in Toronto at SummerSlam. Now, to be fair, her feud with Becky was really, really good. But I'm not going to be unfair. I hate that Goldberg's wrestling for a men's title. I don't think Trish should be wrestling for a women's title. You've got such a talented roster. Um, I would have preferred Nikki wrestle for it because Nikki's been at least back and doing some stuff recently, and seems like she wants to be back. So the whole thing is just um, Triple H sucks, man. I can't really say anything else, but Triple H's track record of booking the women just gets more and more terrible. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I so let me start here. I Evolution felt from the very beginning like it was thrown together to counter program All In, to counter program yeah, to counter program All In. Like it was originally supposed to take place this weekend, 4th of July weekend in Connecticut, have kind of its own weekend, its own build. And then because of the All In success, they decided to combine Evolution, Saturday Night's Main Event, and the Great American Bash in one weekend in Atlanta. And what is the irony of this is that when you combine the three WWE events on next weekend, they're going to sell less tickets than All In. And I cannot say I am not happy about that. Like this is what needed to happen.
Yep.
When you spend your promotional dollars and thoughts to counter program instead of programming yourself, worrying about your own product. And it's like, hey, let me counter because even though we're the biggest thing and they're the second biggest thing, we don't want them to even come close to us. So we're going to try to squash them. And I'm happy the fans have kind of revolted. You know, we were in an AEW event together here in El Paso. I'm in Chicago right now, but we talked to many people in that crowd, just asking them, are they going to go to All In? Are they going to go to Evolution? And most of them said they were going to All In, right? Like
Yep.
most people were like, no, we're going to
People
go to,
wearing women's merch too. Yeah.
yeah, people who were wearing Tony merch or, um, Mercedes, et cetera. They wanted to go to All In, and I was happy because this Evolution build, I don't even know if awful covers it because it's been worse than that. Like, let's just look at this card. Okay, so you have after the WrestleMania win, after the triple threat match, Io was about as hot as any person they had on the roster. She was hot. She was hotter than Rhea. She was hotter than Bianca. She was white hot. The next night, she fights Stephanie Vaquer, who was probably the other hot woman on the roster in like a dream match for Monday Night Raw, which and the crowd was going crazy. It was sold out. They were losing it. And from that moment, Io and Stephanie have been, for whatever reason, kind of cooled off. Okay. So then on the SmackDown side, you have Tiffany, who has, like I said, I went through this roster last week. I can do it again. Nia, Bailey, Naomi, Charlotte. Um, I feel like I'm missing somebody here that she's beaten in this title run of hers, title defenses. Um, Bailey, Naomi, Nia.
Chelsea Green.
Has Tiffany beat Chelsea? Yeah, Roxanne. Roxanne is the one.
Mm.
Roxanne, Chelsea. Now she's gonna beat Trish. On paper, it looks like a really good like title reign. It's like, hey, wow, you've beaten a lot of high-end opponents. But the problem is, how did we get there? Rhea's coming out saying, I don't even know what's next. And Io's like, hey, I'm going to come out. Let me just pick you to fight. Okay, whatever. Tiffany could pick any woman on the roster. And she's like, I have a surprise for you, Jade. If Trish's music comes out, she gets a pop. I want to fight Trish. Why again? Like it doesn't make any sense to me that like I guess you could make the case Tiffany's like, well, you were my mentor, you helped me in Toronto, so I want to give you this as like a payback. But but how we got there is just makes no sense. I will say this of everything WWE women are doing right now in terms of character development, in terms of stories, the only thing I'm mildly interested in is Charlotte Alexa. I actually think that's been done very well. I have been very surprised at how much I like this.
Yeah. Well, that story's been being told and it's breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're also a fan of what they've done with Naomi, but even that's gotten
Yeah.
bumpy lately because they've had her do the stupid, like she was supposed to be smarter than this and had some bad cash in, attempts. But breathing, letting it breathe. This year, I think one of the things for anyone listening, who still doesn't watch AEW, and that's fine. We're here to not be tribal. We report the news on what we see on both. Um, AEW has done a good job this year for the most part of letting their events breathe. Um, they have their pay-per-views, and then they've had some of these, 300th episode and break the Nitro record spring break. So they've had some stuff that are similar to Saturday Night Main Event. Um, I think the tournament, the Owen Hart tournament, has kind of helped tell some stories in the middle. Um, and it's let the pay-per-views mostly be built with real stories. What I'm getting at with WWE is Triple H is stuck in this rut of booking these 2 to 3 week periods of time to go from PLE to Saturday night to PLE, and it's not telling good stories. And with the short amount of matches that they book on these cards, it's had him sidelining champions for long periods of time, right? Like that. EO hasn't wrestled on PLE since WrestleMania. Um, so it's not even title defenses. She's just not wrestling. Tiffany, same deal, has defended at WrestleMania. I think we said last week the women's top titles have only been defended on a PLE at WrestleMania. Other than that, the last time was Bad Blood. And you had Netflix, normal run times 2.5 hours. They could go three if they want to. They're generally going 240. SmackDown just went from 3 hours to two. And he's already having trouble telling stories for every little special that they have lined up. It's a mess. It's actually not. I don't pay enough attention to the men's stuff to know for sure, but I think the tag belts are stuck in a similar kind of quagmire, just kind of there. Um, these microwave feuds, if anything. Obviously, a lot of times given to Cena and um, Jay and Gunther and stuff like that, but the product is worse this year than it's been at any time since the pre-pandemic. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. Like, again, talented roster. It's really easy for them to get out of it because you do the right match with Io Sky, we're all going to get on the internet and be like, that was awesome. But the week to week quality of the product is the worst it's been. I'm getting like summer of 2019 pre blue hair Sasha Banks vibes from the storytelling. It's just not been very good. I mean, the Cena CM Punk ended with a, you know what I mean? Like they're not hitting home runs with even the men's side stories, and the women are not even getting stories. So, um, I'm happy.
Well,
All In has some attendance growth happening, and um, I hope that the pay-per-view number hits huge. And if anyone thinks that we're being, siding with one over the other, it's really about the better AEW does, it makes WWE pull their head out of their, what, um, and book better shows because right now they just ride high off these high gates that they get.
yeah. Well, you said something about, the storytelling being bad. I think the problem is the women aren't getting stories at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the problem. Like if they had a story and the story's bad, at least I could say, well, they're trying.
Right.
Like they're trying. They're doing something. But other than the Charlotte Alexa story, there isn't anything on the women's side in the main roster for WWE right now that is a
Becky,
story.
Lyra, and Bailey are
I
telling a
guess
story.
Becky Lyra and Bailey are telling a story. And look, I might have overshot my prediction where I thought that okay, we're really gonna phase in this new group of women, and I thought we were there the night after Mania. I really was like, okay, Io and Stephanie are like so hot on this roster, and Becky comes back to a little bit of a thud, but since that moment it's been completely a 180. Like Becky's been really good in her role with Lyra, and Bailey now adds to it. Charlotte and Alexa have been really, really good telling their story with backstage segments. Like that yesterday was the first time we got like an in-ring segment with them where they wrestle. But they've been telling their story backstage and in the ring, like where Charlotte had the win, but Alexa outmaneuvered her to get it. And last night, Charlotte was like, "Hey, I like to share the spotlight with nobody," and Alexa goes, "Maybe you haven't looked. You haven't really been in the spotlight for a while." And I was like, "Ooh, that's really good." And other than those two and what they're doing on SmackDown, and kind of what Becky and Lyra and Bailey are doing on Raw, I have very little interest. Like Stephanie is going to probably win the battle royal. Like I feel like
Right.
that's what is going to happen. And okay, are they going to go Stephanie Rhea in Paris? Are they going to go Stephanie Io in Paris? And that is kind of like a dream match, but I just feel like they're just putting matches together and there's no like cohesion of a story because first and foremost, of their five most like hot commodities, four are baby faces, and then on the Raw side, they're all fighting each other because if you take Io, Rhea, Stephanie, they're all baby faces, but they're all going to have to interact with each other, and there's no real heel dynamic there. And while Becky's a tremendous heel, the only way you can help the other three is Becky has to lose the IC title and maybe spin Bailey and Lyra off into a feud and become like the number one contender for either Rhea's belt if she wins it or Io's belt because they don't really have a good heel on Raw other than Becky. Like who's
Yeah.
the like Ivy Niles in a feud with Stephanie Vaquer? Now, I think Ivy Niles is talented, but what has she won to get this feud? And so there's just so much not look. I guess Triple H has to take the blame. I guess the booking committee has to take the blame. The writing, the show that's appearing on Netflix in 3 weeks, whatever that show is called, unscripted writers room. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm just not happy. And look, we don't really talk about ratings. We don't talk about ticket sales, but the ticket sales for Evolution are not good.
Yeah.
They have opened up 6,600 seats. They have sold 4,800. That's awful. Um, to put that in context, All In is about 23,000 tickets sold. Goldberg's retirement match, Saturday night's main event, has about 11,000 sold. So a card with EO and Stephanie and Rhea and Becky and Bailey and Lyra and Tiffany and Trish and Charlotte and Alexa, it's gonna end up doing less
Than a
tickets
regular Raw.
than a regular Raw that happens in Pittsburgh or happens in Columbus, Ohio. And here's the other thing that is really tricky for WWE. The hottest show on TV, which is Love Island, is doing its season finale that same day as Evolution. Also in Atlanta, you have a Beyonce concert. Okay, now, okay, then I have a place in Atlanta, and I know Atlanta very, very well. I would not have run anything against a Beyonce concert in that city, let alone a wrestling event. So they have set the women up for complete failure. And then I hate the fact that they could use that as an excuse not to do this again because they feel like, hey, look, We didn't sell the tickets. We didn't get the pay-per-view numbers. People aren't that interested. Maybe we shouldn't do all women's events. And it's sad because they actually should have done it, but they should have done it
Yeah.
with planning. They should have done it on a
Yeah.
separate weekend in a different venue.
Right. No, two things real quick. It's like, if you don't think they've set them up for failure, we're 1 week away right now. For people of our age, Attitude Era, that remember the Attitude Era, one of the most famous things to come from the Attitude Era and something WWE is known for is their video packages, right? You got the My Way, Stone Cold, and The Rock. To this day, people are like, "God, greatest video package ever." I think of Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks feud left some to be desired. That is an all time video package, right? You could
Mhm.
watch that video package back and think that they had one of the greatest week in, week out feuds in the history of wrestling. I don't think that there's a video package they could throw together for this that would, like, there's not even footage for any of these matches. There's not brawls, there's not promos. I mean, you would have a one, how do you make a video package out of one thing? Io and Rhea have zero bad blood, right? They've been technically feuding for 6 months now, maybe 5, and there's no bad blood there. Um, the whole thing feels off. And then real quick, it's clear to me that, as with every wrestling promotion, and I'm sure this is the deal in AEW too, the writers' room is unorganized, and the things that make TV week to week change. And it is clear as day to me that whether Becky Lynch still has the most political power in WWE or not is up for debate. She clearly plays the game better than everybody else, though. And I don't even mean that in a bad way. I mean, like, as a group project, Becky, Lyra, and Bailey are the group in class right now where the teacher's like, "Who wants to present?" They're like, "Us. We're ready. We have," and
Mhm.
they're clearly advocating for their storyline. And then I really feel like Io and Stephanie, is there too much, like, I think we learned, Bailey and Mercedes have talked about this a lot, is you have to be annoyingly putting your stuff forward on a weekly basis. Um, and it's clear that Becky turns in her homework and gets her stuff on TV, uh, because she's never not on TV when she's got a story going. And I think other people, unfortunately,
Mm.
I don't want to say they're not pitching stuff because how would I know? But they're kind of just showing up and going like, "What do you want me to do on TV this week?" is what it feels like. And that's unfortunate because that's not their job, actually. It's not Io's job to book her own storyline. I think Becky and Alexa and Charlotte probably are turning in notes on what they would like to do as a tag team. That's the stuff that we know works. We'll see in this WWE unscripted thing, but we know that that works in this environment.
So we haven't even really talked about Naomi, but before I get to her and her part of this, um, so originally, right, I'm looking at the original Evolution card plans, and it was Io fights Liv Morgan on Clash of Champions. Io beats Liv with the help of Nikki Bella because the Raquel. It was supposed to be the Raquel. So it was supposed to be Raquel, Roxanne helping Liv, Nikki Bella and Rhea Ripley helping Io, and that's how Io wins the title. Io retains the title. So Io beats Liv because you know Liv's buddies come, Io's buddies come. They do this, and Evolution was either supposed to be Nikki Bella against Liv Morgan singles, and Roxanne and Raquel against Io and Rhea in some kind of whatever combination. And when Liv Morgan got injured, they clearly didn't really know what to do. Like they had no plan B because Nikki Bella is not on Evolution, right? So think about it. Nikki Bella, who's one of the biggest stars ever, is not even on the card.
Main evented the first one. Hey, real quick,
Yeah.
I know you want to go to Naomi. There's just a lack of imagination. Okay, so how do you sell an event as a special event once in a not not once in a lifetime, but a rarity? I got something for you. Has Nikki Bella ever wrestled Trish Stratus?
No, I don't think so. If she has,
So
I don't remember it. No.
so to pull from our boxing fandom, Roy Jones Jr., one of the greatest fighters of our lifetime, and Bernard Hopkins, also one of the greatest fighters of our lifetime. They both fought in 1993 when they were pups. Um,
Mhm.
Roy Jones Jr. basically shut him out, but it was a more competitive fight than Roy Jones had as this just rocket ship of an up and coming young fighter. They never fought in their primes. And they fought when they were old as just old. They were both over the hill. And a pay per view was made out of it. And the pay per view actually did numbers. The fight was awful. Pay per view did numbers. Meant nothing to their legacy, either one of them. Bernard won the fight, doesn't matter.
Mm.
Roy beat them when they were closer to their primes, but it still did numbers. Got Tiffy fighting Trish Stratus. We all know Trish ain't winning because Trish ain't winning a title. You couldn't sell Nikki Bella versus Trish Stratus. Never happened. Gonna happen now. Why wouldn't you? Why
Yeah, I
not?
mean, you could easily do that match. You could just say it's Trish is the best from her era. Nikki is the best from her era, right? So Nikki is the
How many
best
how
from
many
the Divas era, and Trish
how
is the
many
best.
people who
That
aren't plugged in would hear about that match and be like, I'm gonna check that out.
yeah,
I always
I
wanted to see
think
that.
yeah, I think that that match would have been as a in the ring match, probably maybe the worst match on the card, but I think from a spectacle standpoint, it would have drawn interest, it would have drawn buzz. You know, the Roy Jones B Hop, the I remember the first match being really good. I remember the second match being really, really bad, and I remember just still so I know you're a big Roy Jones guy, and I've always been a fan of Roy Jones, but I've never been like in that world where, you know, in his prime, he was the best thing since sliced bread prime. So when Tarver knocked him out, I was happy. I will admit that.
Ugh,
And I remember watching the fight.
Antonio Tarver sucks.
Well, yeah, but he did knock him out. I mean,
He
he did
caught him,
knock.
yeah.
Yeah, he knocked him out. But and didn't he beat him in the? And then Hopkins beat Tarver, right? That's what the. That's how that
Yeah.
all happened. Okay, so back to this. Yes, Trish. Like if I were to just take my pen, which is sitting here, and in 10 minutes I probably could do a better job of an evolution card. Like, why couldn't we just get EO Oscar at evolution? Like, okay, if you want to just go down the path of, hey, let's just do like matches that people have never seen before, I would just go Trish Nikki. I would go I think the tag stuff and the Becky Lyra Bailey thing are fine. I'm not gonna touch
Right.
those. But I would have different, like, to me, Charlotte Alexa as a team would be good. I really hope it's the inspiration as one of the teams. That would be awesome. And then the NXT team, that would be really cool. Like those three teams. But like just look at the four title belts. So you have US title, IC title, two world titles. I would do I would do for the world title, I would do Io Asuka. For Tiffany's belt, I would do Tiffany versus huh. Is it gonna surprise people. I would do Tiffany versus Sol Roca
Yeah.
at Evolution. I would do Rhea versus Julia, and I would do for the IC and the IC title. You already have your match. Yeah, I would have done Rhea versus Julia at Evolution.
They've booked themselves into a nasty corner with Io Rhea because okay, Io wins, it only means she's winning for Rhea to get another shot, either at
Yeah.
SummerSlam or Perth. Rhea wins, and you've officially stamped Io having just a crap reign post WrestleMania,
Yeah.
and losing her title in this truncated week and a half. Called her shot and lost.
Mhm.
You know, the card screams nothing to see here. House show, belts aren't going to change hands,
It
right?
does, but Rhea Ripley's involved, so I don't know about that. But I just think the card, I'll watch it. I have this weird feeling like with WWE has this history of these crappy on paper cards end up being the best ones. Like when you
Well,
watch it.
the 5,000 people who bought tickets are going to be rabid, and it's going to have a great atmosphere. And I love that for the women because they deserve it. But let's be clear, when this ends up being a great PLE, it's 100% on the back of the talent
Yes.
because the writers' room did nothing for them.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm gonna say 98% on the back of the talent and 2% to the crowd, which I hope is really rabid and can
Yep.
also elevate it. And shout out, to two good friends of the show, Chrissy and Chen. I know they'll both be attending Evolution, and we're gonna look to get some updates from them. Post Evolution, but um, I I want to talk about Naomi in the sense that I thought Naomi going into when she when it was said that she did the deed to Jade, when she's the one who shoved Jade onto the car, and set everything up. I don't know if you could have found a more compelling woman's character in all of wrestling than Naomi. She was everything I wanted out of a character. She was nasty, but she was delusional. She could have good matches. She was cutting great promos. She changed her look. Like, when somebody goes through a character change, you want them to real like, you complain about John Cena being heel, but he looks like John Cena, right? Like he
Right.
doesn't look any different. He's not wearing any new clothing. He's just John Cena. Naomi, to her credit, went heel and changed everything about her.
Yeah.
Proceed with caution, new outfits, new color scheme, new music, metal music. Like she's done everything right. But why am I interested in her against Jade again? I mean, Jade is the queen of the ring. So Jade has a guaranteed title shot at SummerSlam, no matter who the champion is. Naomi has the briefcase. So Naomi could cash in at any time on anyone and it doesn't matter. Yet they're feuding for what? Like, okay, Jade has beaten Naomi, but Naomi's gotten the better of her in these three ways to advance. Naomi jumped her last night and they're going to have a match. Can we get some creativity? Like, can the match be like an ambulance match? Can the match be, a Georgia street fight? Can it be something different than just a
I
singles
think I
match?
read it's I think I read it's going to be a stip match. They just haven't announced it yet. That's
Okay,
that's the
so if it is a stip match, and Atlanta is Jade's hometown, Jade's gonna win. Fine. But now Naomi keeps losing these matches. And yes, she's going to cash in and win the title. And I'm sure now, more than ever, it's going to be Tiffany Jade at SummerSlam. Jade's going to win the title. And 10 seconds later, Naomi's going to cash in on her. And I
right.
have to say, if that's what happens, that's awful. Because to me, for all of the knocks that Tiffany has gotten, for her first ever women's title reign, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be, and I think she should not lose it to Jade. If they let her beat Jade and Naomi cashes in, I'm okay with that. I don't like her losing to Jade for 10 seconds, and I don't like it for Jade. Like, I get it. It's part of the story, which is Naomi is thwarting her. I understand that because look, Naomi's keeping that belt warm for Bianca anyway, because Bianca's coming back, and you know Bianca and Naomi are gonna feud. So it's like I don't understand what they're doing with Naomi. Um, I would
I
have
think it'll be
preferred.
WrestleMania 31 though. I don't think Jade or Tiffany will get a result over the other. Is the way I see it.
So you think Naomi's just gonna cash in and win the three-way on somebody? Like
I
it's gonna
think
be
I
Seth
think
Rollins?
yeah, I think that Tiffany and Jade to make that work are gonna have to work a pretty physical match that but the way Naomi's been trying to cash in recently, it's not like she's picking her spots well. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
she's been a really bad like I thought Naomi's character and the way she's so calculated and thinks everything out would be the perfect Money in the Bank winner because she can almost be a menace to everybody. Like
Right.
she can strategically make you think she's cashing in and not. She's been the exact opposite. She's tried every time and gotten beat up, and she looks like a goof in doing it, but I know she's gonna win the title. I know she's gonna feud with Bianca, and I guess that's the direction they're gonna go. I just I think having all these events on top of each other has hurt the product. I think the lack of cohesion in the story has hurt the product. Um, it's unexplainable and it's unforgivable and it's reprehensible that Io has not wrestled in 2 months for anything. Like Io could have literally gotten into the ring and said, "Hey, I want to challenge somebody," and they should send a jobber out in that local town, and Io should squash the person. Like to me, I don't know anything. I don't know what they're doing, and quite honestly, I hate to say this. I never thought I would say this. I never thought I'd get to a place like this, which is, um, I find myself more invested in the AEW men's stories right now than I am in the WWE women's stories, other than Charlotte and Alexa. Like I never thought I would say that, but I look at and not to spend too much time on the men of AEW, but like I look at Hangman Page every single week. And whatever they're doing with him is working because I want to see this guy win the title. I'm very invested in what they're doing with MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. Like, that's a pretty good piece of storytelling. Like I'm interested in the WWE women's side. I really should be, my mouth should be drooling at Io Rhea, but it isn't because there's no story. They were at the last time we saw Io wrestle, they were a tag team. The last time EO was wrestling was they were a tag team and they were making hard eyes with each other. And the internet was going crazy over this dream team. And from
Yeah.
that point on, EO has been great backstage, but nothing else, and kicked Dom in the head, which was, I guess, the highlight of her run. Rhea has been I mean, hey, I know this is going to irk you, but Rhea putting on 4-star matches. 4.25-star matches with Raquel. Um, so I mean, I guess there's some positive. No, I don't know. I'm just
We
not happy with the WWE product right now. And I don't know if I'm as mad about it as I was pre blue hair Sasha Banks. That was really bad. Like that was
yeah.
some really bad stuff. But
Are we now two oh go ahead.
go no, no, go ahead.
Are we now 2 years into that maybe the worst spot to be on Raw if you are wanting to have good in-ring work and be featured as a wrestler is the women's champion because Liv Morgan has had the best run of her career since she dropped the belt. And Io was, I guess I won't even say Raw. Bailey was the hottest thing in women's wrestling. Shirt sales coming out like crazy. Had a bad reign, a badly booked reign. Liv had a badly booked reign. Liv was able to come out of that hotter than ever. Io was hot as can be going into getting the belt. We didn't think she was going to get it. She did. Not been good. I mean, they just don't. I mean, we're 2 years into Tiffany, obviously, like they're just not doing anything nearly. They're not doing anything to write home about with these women's title reigns, story wise.
Look, if Io got the same reign as Tiffany, I wouldn't be that mad because
Right.
I think we're looking at Tiffany's reign all wrong. I know people are like, "Oh, she's recycled Nia 15 times," and she has. But let's be honest here. If you look at Io, she beat Rhea for the title in an awesome match on Raw. She has a rematch with Rhea that, for whatever reason, got interrupted by Bianca to set up the three-way. She wins the three-way. The next night has a match against Stephanie Vaquer. 2 weeks later has a match with Roxanne. If I were to tell you, look, Io is going to have this really crappy reign as a champion. Oh, who did she fight, Raja? Rhea, Bianca, Roxanne, Stephanie Vaquer, Rhea. You're like, that's a bad because on paper that looks phenomenal, right? Like you literally
Yeah.
have, if you were to rank 10 of the best wrestlers, women's wrestlers in the world, that's like they're all there in that list. I just said Io, Rhea, Bianca, Roxanne, Stephanie. That should not be seen as a crappy title reign, but that's exactly what it has been up to this point. A crap. She won the title great. She defended the title great at Mania, and since the Roxanne match has been in tag matches and in backstage segments. The thing with Tiffany to me is she's been booked very strong. I cannot argue that they have done a poor job of booking Tiffany because Tiffany has won every match clean and she's won them strong.
Right.
But the problem is she's a little bit typecast as she's a baby face because of her cheers and the sign and the Tiffy time. And she has an in-ring babyface style because she's very acrobatic and stuff. But her promos don't scream babyface to me. Like her promos aren't screaming babyface. I think both women's title reigns have been there's a lot to be desired. I think the quality of opponents on both sides on paper look good. Like I said, if
Yeah.
you were to tell me that the two women's champions have defended their titles against Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Roxanne, Stephanie Vaquer, Charlotte, Bailey, Naomi, Nia, um, Jade,
Yeah.
you would say, okay, but it's how we get there. So like
Yeah.
you look at AEW, right? And I know we have to talk about All In, and we should. You look at Mercedes's reign. Okay, so she beats Willow. Good name, But Mercedes has defended her belt against Sky Blue and um uh Harley Cameron and
Nyla
Zexus,
Rose.
Nyla Rose. That like been she has been defending against some really top talented women, Chris Statlander. She hasn't really defended the belt against Jamie Hayter. That was an Owen Hart match. Athena was an Owen Hart match. Um, but it's like if you were to look at Mercedes's run and the opponents she has faced, and then you look at Io and you look at Tiffany, you're like, well, Io and Tiffany are going to have the better run, but they actually don't. They actually have a significantly worse run as champion than Mercedes does with the TBS title because it's not who they're defending against; it's how we're getting to these points that is bad.
Well, and it's working because Mercedes is a heel, so she can. The Willow was a feud. Um, Britt was a feud.
Oh, I
Uh,
forgot about Britt. Yeah.
yeah, Britt was a feud. Shido, I think, was a feud. I mean, we went multi weeks
Mhm.
there, multi matches. Chris was a feud. Harley was a feud. Um,
Momo.
Momo was a feud, and I think the Mina has been part of a feud, right? And then the rest of it were defenses scattered in. So she's a heel, so it's working. I think the big thing on Io and Tiffany both, and just the whole program in general, we're lacking meaningful heels in the
Yeah,
WWE women's locker room. Nia
Becky's
is
the
the
only
only
one.
one, and so they're recycling the crap out of her. You know what I
Well,
mean? I mean, she's
Becky,
gotten, yeah, in the world title scene. Sorry,
yeah.
um, like, like who's he? Okay, so Becky's got the IC title. Who is there even on Raw that you could even do a 1 month program with Io
I hate to
and
say,
scare?
I hate to say this, but to me, Io, Rhea, and Stephanie being so popular, it does cause a booking calamity because you're not going to turn Rhea. Even if you turn Rhea Ripley heel, she's going to get the most cheers, so it doesn't matter. Io has become so popular, and Io has such a popular style as a wrestler that she'll get cheered. You know,
Right.
Io is not going to be booed. You can't turn Stephanie Vaquer heel. That's just not going to work either. To me, that's the biggest problem.
But
Is go ahead.
they brought her up, but without a plan.
Who?
It seemed like
Steph?
they had a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna talk
They
about we're gonna
they had
talk
a
about
plan.
Blake, Monroe, Mariah May. I think one of the things that is, I think they just pulled from that division so quickly that it's just been off its rocker. But do you feel like they have a plan for Stephanie besides aura farming?
I think their plan for Stephanie is she becomes champion. I don't know when it is. I don't know where it's going to be. I think they had a plan for Stephanie. I don't look. You made the comment in our group chat that when Stephanie posted the video of her getting like her knee treatment,
Yeah,
and she's like, "Oh, everything's fine," and you're like, you're getting needles put in your knee. It cannot be all the way fine."
right.
I think something happened with Io and Stephanie injury wise that has caused them to be so discombobulated booking. But I'm also giving them an out for an excuse. I will say this: the plan for Stephanie was, wow, you do some amazing Netflix numbers. We got to get you on to the main Netflix show, and we'll figure the rest out later. Because honestly, that's the thing that I saw them presenting with her, which is she's Stephanie Vacour. She's Aura. She has the number one selling T-shirt. She look, she has a lot of fans, and I don't know how many of them of her new fans are about her wrestling.
Yeah.
And I will say this: in Io, in Rhea, in Stephanie, when you have three super over women, you gotta have a heel champion.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have to do is you have to say, okay, heel champion, three hot baby faces. Heel champion has to beat two of them, and the person you want to win the title is the baby face that takes the title off the heel. Like you have to sacrifice Io. Like let's just say if you want Stephanie to be the champ, and you have a heel champ, you have to sacrifice Io losing, and you have to sacrifice Rhea losing to get to step. Like you can't have everything. And I feel like right now they're trying to get everything, which is we want Io to be super popular. We want Rhea to be super popular. We want Stephanie to be super popular. We don't want them to ever lose, but we don't want to beat anybody in the like it can't happen. Like you gotta have to beat somebody. And
Well, and they're not even pulling the trigger. I said, okay, who's on the Raw side? That's you got Raquel and Roxanne, but the way that they're booked, they wouldn't be seen as a threat. They heated up Raquel real
oh
quick for the rematch, but then she lost, even
yeah,
with
like
help and
yes,
interference.
Raquel and Roxanne, who are the women's tag champs, can't beat Rhea Ripley. So that tells me all I need to know about the tag champs. They can't beat Rhea Ripley by herself in a match where there are no DQs. Where Roxanne could have literally came out with a pipe and just hit her over the head and pinned her. It would have been that simple. And you could
Right.
have protected Rhea by saying, well, Rhea didn't have help. And honestly, so to me, you could have told a very easy story with Rhea and Io, but it wouldn't have been at Evolution. It would have to be at SummerSlam. And here's what it would have been. Io and Rhea were a team. Okay. So hear me out here. They were a team. They were like doing this and they were all hard eyes with each other. Rhea gets her ass kicked in Saudi Arabia by Roxanne and Raquel. The next Raw, Rhea confronts Io and says, where were you? Like, I have always been there to help you. Where were you to help me? I get beat up. You literally then set the match up for Rhea and Io against Raquel and Roxanne at Evolution. Okay, so it's for the tag belts. I know people are going, oh, you're taking Charlotte and Alexa out. I know, but hear me out here. That match, Raquel and Roxanne beat Rhea and Io, and Io turns on Rhea. And you go to SummerSlam with Io being a heel against Rhea. To me, if you did it that way, you have a story.
Yeah, but they're unwilling to have Rhea ever be vulnerable, and that would have taken 2 or 3 vulnerable moments. And I'm not even talking about in the ring. I'm talking about like I need help, like,
Yes.
and that's why she's so compelling behind the scenes when they just let her do an interview. Like if you ever watch these WWE exclusives or on her own page or Chris Van Vliet, so well spoken, actually a very vulnerable person who talks through time she had a tough time and whatever. And then she gets on screen and, they just don't ever let her show any of that on the shows. At best, we get it in a digital exclusive. It's annoying. Her fans are annoyed with it, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. Can you pause this?
Yeah. All right. I kind of said a minute ago, and I think we've kind of tiptoed around it. What are we, 3, 4 weeks in now? But Blake Monroe in NXT. They're clearly trying to make her a face. Um, I think I said on when she debuted or kind of shortly thereafter, I said I don't know if I see that working. Um, I was I was in the audience in Huntsville, Alabama, when she told that audience what she felt about their city and how much it sucked, and changed the name of that city to something that we can't say on this show. But it's a very British way to put people down. Um, I just I just don't see face being her lane. So I feel like it's been very uneven. How have you been feeling about Blake's run in NXT so far?
So both of us come from a world in our day jobs of data and analytics and trends. And
Yep.
I'm sure in what you do, if a shoe sells well for 2 weeks, you can't necessarily say that this is the start of the shoe taking off to new heights. You got to see some data and traction, right? Same thing for what I do in healthcare. Like if a product moves, it's not like in 2 weeks, it doesn't mean I want the shelves to be stocked more of it, from a marketing standpoint, because it's like, well, who knows, it could be a fad. It could be the
Right.
next, the fidget spinners. And with when you order stuff, you got to do it months in advance. You got to see these things coming. Where I'm
Six to
going,
nine months out. Yeah.
yeah, where I'm going with this stuff, I don't want to judge Blake Monroe's NXT run and say, oh yeah, it's a failure, it sucks, because it's been 4 weeks, right? And I want to give HBK, who has, of the two bookers in WWE, earned my respect for long-term storytelling more than Triple H has. I mean, HBK has been pretty good about this. He really
Yep.
has.
Yep.
But, and then it is a big but. For the first month of her tenure, I have thought it's not been good.
Yeah.
There hasn't been one, other than the first night she debuted, with the spotlight and the camera panning, and she didn't even say her name. She just says, the NXT women's division just got glamorous. I was all in. I was like, yeah, this is how you debut somebody. And from that point on, I have not been interested in her at all. Now, yes, she did the Sabrina Carpenter vignette, and she is a beautiful woman. And I knew that when WWE knew they were getting her, they just saw Trish Stratus. They saw Tiffany Stratton. They
Yep.
saw Alexa Bliss. They saw beautiful, blonde, talented woman, babyface, right? But Alexa Bliss and Trish Stratus and Tiffany all became popular because of their heel work. And I will say that, in my opinion, sorry, Mariah May, formerly known as Mariah May, now Blake Monroe, was a better heel than Alexa Bliss, than Trish Stratus, and Tiffany. So let her be the
Alexa,
heel.
yeah.
Well, okay,
So
okay. Let me be careful here, because and I am the Alexa guy on this show. You're not a big fan of what her 2017 heel run was, because she was just putting down baby faces, making them look dumb. But it got her
right.
over, right? It got her over. The thing with Mariah May in AEW, Blake Monroe now in WWE, is that I always felt like he did a really good job of getting Tony more over as the baby face, because she was such a nasty heel.
Well, so to me, that's where they're making a mistake. And any relation she has to style wise to Trish Stratus, Tiffany Stratton, and Alexa Bliss is she has one secret ingredient that the other three don't have at all. She's a psycho in the ring.
Mhm.
She's she is a better heel than Alexa Bliss, but not in a WWE way. She is a violent wrestler. And I'm not just
Mhm.
talking about the blood matches and the Hollywood ending. I'm talking about, in Japan.
Mhm.
She likes she bumps like a crazy person. And
Mhm.
those three, I'm not even saying that they're bump adverse. I'm just saying that she is a little bit more dangerous, crazy, cutting edge in the ring than the three
Mhm.
of them are. She's going to have more violent matches. She's going to ask for more like holy shit spots than the three of them would. And that's actually what sets her apart is she looks like, the supermodel looks and the blonde and all that stuff that's sold in wrestling forever and ever and ever. But she's over here doing neck bumps and blood matches. And if they wanted to try her as a babyface in NXT, I don't think it should have been to carry the brand on her own. And they pulled Julia and they pulled Stephanie, and now they've put her in that pole position. And if they were going to do that and have her lead the brand, I think she should have come in as a heel that basically scared the crap out of everybody and was vicious because that's
Yeah.
what she does best. And I don't see that working right now because she's still trying to figure out who she is as a face. Um, Probably can't use nearly the innuendo and stuff that because if she is going to be a face, from what we know of her, it's going to be tongue in cheek and a little naughty, like you know what I mean. But which she tried in her first promo and it fell flat. And my biggest thing is she just feels less than in presentation so far than she did before. So does Ricky Saints,
Saints. Yeah.
you know, and I trust HBK, but Stephanie never felt less. Julia hasn't, Julie was kind of there, and then felt, and then she got there, but she never felt less than. It was kind of like, all right, where are we going? But it's lacking thus far. They also did a weird thing where Jordan's still there, and if the fans are so Blake's supposed to be a face, but if the fans are following the story, Jordan should be their favorite to dethrone JC. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't fit.
You could have done this so easily. I mean, they could have done this so many different ways, and it would have been so perfect. And they have to go back into their archives, and this is who Blake Monroe should be in WWE. He should be Adam Cole. He should be Adam Cole. The heel Adam Cole. Like when he came out and beat Drew McIntyre, Adam Cole. And where I'm going with this, so they had Julia, right? Let's go through this. So they had Julia in NXT, and Julia was hot. Like she was doing her thing. And they were not prepared for what became Stephanie Vaquer. Like I know they signed her and they had big plans for her. I get that. But they always had her like, okay, is this Julia's time? And then Stephanie, you're gonna get your time. And then Stephanie
Right.
got so hot that they just had to pivot to Stephanie. The numbers were there. Everything said you got to go with Stephanie. She's just a hot hand. And she was. And they just have this belief that, okay, well, Julia came in. She took over for Roxanne. Stephanie came in, took over for Julia. Blake Monroe come in and take in for them. And I just don't think Blake Monroe, Mariah May has the babyface aura that Julia or Stephanie have had.
Right.
Like she's what was she known for on AEW TV for 2 years? She was the nastiest heel you could find. You know, she was
Right.
a vicious person, and she's completely she's miscast here. She just doesn't even feel believable in as a babyface. What I would have done if I was booking is Stephanie Vaquer would have lost to JC Jane the way they did it, but Blake Monroe would have been the reason that Stephanie lost. Like she would have been the heel who came out of nowhere, did something to Stephanie, and made her lose. And she would have almost been like, she would have been the new member of Fatal Influence before she kicked JC or whoever else out of the group to take it over. Like to me, Mariah May should only be a heel for a couple of years and be the unbeatable nasty heel. And then the person who beats her is cemented. Like it was a simple formula.
I think
And
they tried. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, no, go ahead.
They tried to skip to exactly how Tiffany's currently over,
That's
and
correct.
and Tiffany got there by being nasty, and the WWE fan, they know who Mariah May is. They didn't watch AEW. A lot of them didn't watch AEW, so they don't. She doesn't have that credit necessarily built up yet, where they really know and that works. If I was dead set on making her a heel or a face, I would have leaned into her strengths. And again, the bump card, she bumps like a crazy person. I would have had her first match be like a contenders match with Jordan Grace, and I would have had her go in there almost vanilla, like you kind of don't know. And I would have let Jordan throw her around the ring for. I would have let Jordan kind of like beat her up, and actually, you could almost have done a double flip and had Jordan go
Mhm.
crazy heel. Um, and I would have had Jordan beat her, but like in an uncomfortable way where it's like the crowd is like kind of the Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax face turn deal, because what are her strengths? If she's going to get people to root for her, it's going to be because she can take an immense amount of uh,
Punishment.
uh, punishment, and that's how the crowd would root for her that doesn't know her. I'm not saying that's the best idea, but if you were dead set on it, That's how you would have. She's
It's
going to get the crowd on her side by bumping
I
or by being the craziest heel for an extended amount of time, and then they love it.
I don't hate what you just said. I think I hate the idea of her just being a baby face. I don't
Yeah,
like it. She's just not. I've watched her work in Stardom. I followed her. I was following her on X when she was a shop model, right?
yep,
Because I remember she did this cosplay of Trish Stratus, and I actually thought it was Trish Stratus. I was like, "Who that? Oh my!" So wait, that's not Trish. And I've been following her career ever since. And from the journey of her going to wrestling school and all that, I've been following it through X. And she did some amazing work in Stardom. And she's done, she did magnificent work in AEW, but they were all heel work, right? Like all of it was the heel. She likes, she has love interests, but she's a heel character. Like that's kind of been her thing. In WWE,
right.
she's a vanilla baby face, and I think it's like the worst thing to put on her because they already have one in Tiffany. Like that's the other thing, right? Like if Tiffany didn't exist, maybe this works. But because Tiffany exists, you already have kind of the real McCoy. Give us something different with Blake Monroe. Give us that nasty heel. Give us that, like that person who, like, why can't she be the modern day Mick Foley as a heel, where then she
Yeah.
ends up becoming beloved, but you got to get there. And I don't know. I watched her make the save on NXT, like the run in, and I just didn't feel anything. Like her music hit, I was like, okay, it's Blake Monroe. Like I want to feel like, hey, this is a big superstar. Like this is like the face of the company, and I didn't.
And it's early,
Yeah, 4 weeks.
it's early and they still have, I mean, she's so talented. It's probably going to work out, but I don't love the direction she's getting at all. I think we all agree on that. Um they did a great job of Stephanie never felt like part of the crowd. Julia never felt like part of the crowd. They're in danger of making Blake feel like part of the
Yeah,
crowd
that
in
actually
that
that is
locker room.
that's a great point. She feels like she's just one of the women. And the reason they didn't do that with Stephanie or Julia is who helped Julia, Stephanie, and who helped Stephanie, Julia. Like they helped each other. They never like helped anybody else.
Assimilated into the, yeah.
Yeah. So they always felt like attractions.
Yep.
And Blake Monroe does not feel like an attraction. She feels like she's one of the NXT women who are just fighting for a roster spot. And that's just not what you need to do with her. And, they gave, like, I never understood why she couldn't have been the one to beat Stephanie for the title the first night of her career. Like, Stephanie has a open challenge. Out comes Blake Monroe, whatever. They don't even have to name her. She comes out, everybody knows who it is. It's like, oh my God, that's Mariah May. Mariah May beats Stephanie because fatal influence help her. And now you're off to the races. I don't understand why they didn't just do that. It makes no sense to me. But where things are making a lot of sense is in AEW. Um, we had Mercedes. We chronicled our history with Mercedes Monet as a fan. She did have her 1,000th match
She
this
did.
past Wednesday on Dynamite. It was the 300th episode of Dynamite, so congratulations to Tony Khan and everybody in AEW. That's a hell of a milestone.
Yes, it
The
is.
only wrestling company not named WWE to have 300 episodes. Nitro never had 300 episodes, so um, we got basically Mercedes beating Nina with a roll up to set up now All In, which is happening next Saturday. And Tony was at ringside, and we got Mercedes pouring champagne on Luther, but then also giving him a little bit of a wink. I wonder if there's something going to happen there. But What did you think of Mercedes Mina? What do you think of the bill to All In? And what is your prediction for All In?
I really enjoyed Mercedes Mina. I thought it was a very, very, very good TV match. I think it
Just
had a
just
better.
just not at the level of Raquel and Rhea. Just I'm kidding. Okay. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I'll probably watch Mercedes Mina 10 times more than I watch Rhea Raquel. Uh, but again, we talk about grading a stip match versus not a stip.
Mhm.
I really like the pace that Mina and Mercedes worked in this one. Little bit different than the Tokyo Dome match. The Tokyo Dome match, I really remember Mina working her leg. Um, and this had a little bit of that, but I thought the crowd was really hot for this match. Um, Notable difference. I think that this was one of the more over crowds for Mercedes in AEW, and something that stood out to me was she's gotten a lot of like "Fight Forever" chants, "Holy shit" chants, AEW chants at pay-per-views, less on TV. But it's usually after Mercedes takes a move. If you go back and watch, it'd be Chris power bombed her or whatnot, or it's a gigantic move that like no one's ever seen, like the pile driver on the apron got obviously a huge reaction, or the seven amigos. But most of the time, it's Mercedes taking a bump that gets the crowd chanting. We got an AEW chant after the lung blower, um, and I feel like the appreciation we've been asking for is finally starting to set in. Um, you know, so I felt like the crowd was a good part of this match, but I think her and Mina worked a really stiff match. Um, and one of the things that's going to get Mercedes over, even though she's supposed to be a heel with this crowd for her inevitable babyface run, is you know a heel happily working a tough match 10 days before the biggest match of her AEW career, and stepping in there and working with another top contender. But um, I thought the cake thing was tongue in cheek towards WWE, that she didn't throw it at Tony. Um, because of the cake fiasco that Tony was very unhappy about in WWE. Um, I thought that was a subtle nod to being a little different. But the only thing I didn't like about it is I didn't like the way Tony kind of played the stoicism ringside. I don't know that that worked the way they wanted it to. Um, I know she was trying to play it off as like she made a promise and she has to stick to it, and so she just didn't react to anything. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for the match. I think in a vacuum, they've done a great job building this match for a pay-per-view match. It is a above standard build, but for a match that could have pay-per-view or could have main evented, it's been a somewhat below standard build compared to Omega Okada and Moxley Hangman. So that part's disappointing. We talked about that last week, but I would have wanted more for a match that could have main evented.
Yeah, so if this match had a chance at main eventing and you're comparing the build to the other two, then it wouldn't have it shouldn't main event because the build hasn't felt as important. Um I I thought about it a lot, traveling here, been on a plane, and I said Tony really could have, Tony Khan that is, could have main evented these two women as the ultimate screw you WWE, because these are two women who many felt like were underutilized, underserved, underpushed in WWE. And for him to say, okay, look what I've done with them. I am letting them main event my biggest show on a weekend when you guys are struggling to sell tickets for an all women's pay-per-view. I got the two women that if you had on your roster, maybe you'd had some more luck. It would have been a nice thing for him to do, but I don't see that at this point. I feel like Paige, if Paige is winning, he has to main event. if Page is not winning, then Omega should main event so he can get it. I do think, and I'll get to my prediction here in a sec. So I actually really liked the match, and I thought it was Mina's best match since her match with Mayu Iwatani
For sure. Yeah.
a couple of years ago. I still think the Mayu match, but the Mayu match I can't really compare because one got a lot of time, one was not on TV with commercials, and then the other one kind of had, its breaks because of the TV format. But I actually really liked this match. I thought it was one of Mina's best matches. It was another day in the park for Mercedes. She's really, really good at this, and she proved that again. I like the subtle winning with a roll up, because that's obviously leading to something at All In, because Tony usually wins all of her matches with the roll up. I really liked how hard they hit each other. It felt almost like a shoot at times.
Yep.
I thought their work was really good. Um, I understand why people are underwhelmed with the build. I'm not that underwhelmed. I'm fine with what they've done. I do think I wish I got a little bit more. Like, I want to see this Wednesday Tony getting a one up on Mercedes, like beating her up or something, because I feel like they haven't had enough physicality in this feud.
She needs to beat her up and embarrass her this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm looking forward to All In. Is it a one woman's match?
We got the Casino Gauntlet too.
But isn't that on the pre-show?
I don't think so, is it? They've only
I don't know.
announced like 6 matches. So it's
Okay.
actually one of the lighter WWE cards I can recall. I mean, he's had 11 to 13 matches on most of the stuff I feel
Uh,
like I've watched.
because Okada Omega need an hour. So that's
Right.
why. I mean, if Okada versus Omega is on your card, you can't have 12 matches. You'll be there for 7 hours. So
Well, that's actually fair. So Okada Omega, let's call it 60 minutes. Hangman Moxley, let's call it 30 to 40. And Tony Mercedes, I would guarantee they'll get at least 25, probably could scare 30. So yeah. And the Casino Gauntlets, by their nature, take a half hour to 45 minutes too. So I don't think it's pre-show. I think people would be pretty upset about that because the men
okay.
certainly won't be on pre-show. I would like us to get a women's match on the pre-show for a couple of talents that don't need to be in the gauntlet. So we can't make predictions on those because they're not out there. But Casino Gauntlet winner and Tony Mercedes winner. Who do you think?
90-day release up.
Dakota?
Yeah.
No, I think she could be at Forbidden Door, but not at this.
Okay. Then there goes my prediction for her. Casino Gauntlet winner. Let me think. I'm trying to pick somebody who we don't know is coming back. Who's a free agent?
Um, I mean, Shotzi, uh, B Priestley, Isla Dawn,
Let me think.
Saray.
'Cause you know what? I'm gonna go completely left field. The Casino Gauntlet. So the Casino Gauntlet winner gets a women's title match.
Correct. Yeah.
Where? Which event?
I
Forbidden
don't think
Door?
no, they
No.
get a contract. They can pick. It's a little bit like Money in the Bank.
Okay. I am picking Willow to win.
Okay.
I'm picking Willow to win, and Willow is going to cash in that against Mercedes, which is my other prediction. Mercedes is going to beat Tony Storm at All In because Luther is going to turn on Tony Storm.
Okay.
And how he's going to do it is Mercedes is going to have Tony Storm in the bank statement or a statement maker, and Luther's going to throw in the towel. And it's going to come out that Luther was paid off by Mercedes.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so I think there are only three women who could possibly win the Casino Gauntlet. That doesn't make sense for anyone else to win. It's Willow, it's Chris, or it's Athena. That's now if Tony were to win, that means Mercedes is not the one dethroning Tony.
If who to win?
If Tony wins, then that means Tony's got to lose the belt to someone besides Mercedes. I think it'd be stupid to
Oh,
have
I
Mercedes
see. I see.
lose just to win, it all out or something. So that could be Chris, that could be Willow. I'm gonna go Athena loses on Friday to Thunder Rosa, but then wins the Casino Gauntlet because they are featuring her on AEW TV recently. If she re-signed, I could definitely see that being the direction. I also see Mercedes winning. I don't know what the roll up thing means. They both do it. I don't know if it's going to be like a roll up off or something, but I hope it's not won by roll up either way. Honestly, at All In, I want a winner. Um, I also think Mercedes will win. I don't know where you go with either. It's not time for the Mercedes crash out losing this match. And I actually don't think Tony benefits that much from a win.
Well, okay. I okay.
She
I don't.
benefits. Let me be good.
She benefits. I don't know if the division
That's what
benefits.
I meant.
Yeah.
That's what she benefits. At that point, you basically Tony wins so that Tony Khan can say, "I created the greatest AEW women's wrestler ever from scratch."
Yeah.
On a because the difference between Mercedes and Tony is WWE had great plans for Mercedes if she went back. Tony was always going to just kick around in WWE, and that's why she left. So,
I think that to me,
or she
Mercedes
felt she
has
was always going to be in a certain level at WWE. That's why she left.
Mercedes has to win because you need the big bad heel to keep winning before the big bad heel loses. And
Right.
I think Tony has enough credit with the AEW roster and the AEW crowd that she loses here by Luther screwing her or Mina screwing her or whatever, whoever it is that screwed, because somebody is going to screw Tony Storm out of the title. He's not going to lose clean. And for me, I feel like if I was Mercedes, if Mercedes wins, then I think that you have so much story to tell.
Yeah.
Chris, Willow, Athena, Harley. It's a roster full of baby faces that need an extra rub. It is not a roster full of heels. So if Tony does win, where does she go? Who's she
Yeah.
fighting? Because she's
I
the top baby face.
I actually think Mercedes wins and her downfall can come pretty quickly. I actually don't think she holds the AEW world title belt for a long time until she holds it as a face. I actually think you could introduce her old WWE bugaboo in like 2 or 3 months, right? Because it feels like they want her to break the TBS title reign. So you could have her like at All Out, I think is around that time. Start losing. I think she could lose to Willow or Chris this year. I don't think she's going to hold that belt for the year. She's going to lose it this year. And then if you want her to have a long reign, it'll be downfall, maybe a year to build up. Maybe she goes away and films a movie. And then when she comes back, I really expect her to sign a second contract. And so I think the first contract is very much going to be mostly heel work. So,
Well, you know what? You gave me a idea for another winner. And Tony Storm retains.
what's
It's
that?
Chris Statlander winning and joining the Death Riders.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in next week's draft episode. But Chris did just pick up some Eve gold right after I picked her up off waivers.
She
So,
did. She did pick up and Elena Black also won, the Arizona Ice Tea Championship.
team
Um,
of champions over here.
which is, I mean, did we even celebrate Roxanne becoming part of the women's tag belts?
You brought it up. You said you
I
had
mean,
two and
but
a
it
half
wasn't
new
official.
champions.
It wasn't, yeah, it wasn't official. Now it's
Right.
official. I can officially say that. Yeah, I think Chris having those interactions with Moxley was interesting. They could tell a story, but to me, Chris losing to Mercedes every time and then being the one to beat Tony Storm, who beats Mercedes, just that doesn't even make sense. So I'm sticking with my original prediction. It is Mercedes. She is going to win.
I love it, the idea of Mercedes wins, retains whoever she faces at Forbidden Door, All Out or the pay-per-view World's End. She loses to Willow. If Willow's the winner, like you said, she loses the world title to Willow. Then she loses the TBS title to Chris, and then just the belts just come off of her in waterfall fashion throughout. And then because I actually think Athena could be a great challenger for Willow or Chris. The tough thing with both Willow and Chris have been TBS champions before. So maybe she loses the main belt to Willow and maybe she loses the TBS to Athena. I don't know, but a lot of different directions you can go. Um, we will be back next week with a gigantic episode recapping um, one of the biggest women's matches of the year so far with Mercedes and Tony. We'll have a Casino Gauntlet to recap. We will have Evolution to recap. So we do look forward to that. And
Yes.
kind of set up the back half of the year. We'll kind of have an idea what's going on with SummerSlam and AEW. It will be very apparent what's going on based on who wins Tony Mercedes and who wins the Gauntlet. I think that will pull some clarity in. So, any last
Yep.
thoughts?
Well, we will be recapping all of next weekend, and we will also most likely have a special guest on the show who will be at Evolution and will be able to give us a live, not live, but kind of a recap being in the crowd, who the crowd was hot for, how the matches came off in person. So look forward to that too. We kind of do that once a year, once a half a year, have a special guest. So we will be doing that as well. So on that note, looking forward to a very interesting week in the world of women's wrestling. Might be the biggest week for the women we've ever had since we started this show. So
Yep.
looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for listening. Again, make sure to subscribe on Spotify and YouTube or wherever you're listening. We appreciate anyone subscribing in any venue that you prefer to listen.
Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Samsung Podcast, RSS, which is our hub where everything kind of generates from. We are excited that we've gotten some subscribers in countries we didn't know we were listened to, so that's really good. You guys have loved the last month of our full episodes. They've done the best numbers we've ever done on average. So, we can't thank you enough for the support. And the reality is, we do this show so everybody out there who is a fan of this genre gets to listen to a podcast that focuses on the positivity and the brilliance of the genre and not yelling and screaming at each other. And we really want to be a difference to the podcast ecosystem. So thank you so much, and looking forward to next week's episode, which might be our biggest ever. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks everyone.